Do you find those after dinner games between the generations exciting? Here's my favorite, Monopoly. Monopoly on the truth. To play Monopoly on the truth, all you need to do is to think that your opinion is better than everyone else's, and you don't even need a playing board. Okay?
Okay, Boomer.
Well, actually, it's not okay. Because though Monopoly on the truth is exciting and agitating and aggravating and. Stop!
Okay, Boomer.
Okay, Boomer.
Okay, Boomer.
Okay, Boomer.
This exciting OK Boomer installment is recorded about 20 miles from where OK Boomer, yours truly, Robert Rickman, resides, and we recorded it in a park in Soddy-Daisy, Tennessee. And we sat on bleachers opposite of each other because we both have ADHD and anything could happen. Anyway, on the left, as you squint your eyes, you can see Amy, and on the right is yours truly. We talked about education. Well, folks, this is where we are. We are in a park opposite from each other. I'm talking now with a former teacher who is out of the education business now. Amy, why did you leave education?
I don't know if you've been in a classroom lately, but that's why. I realized that it was too much stress on me. I was putting way too much pressure on myself. The school was putting too much pressure on me. The parents were putting too much pressure on me, and nobody was providing me any support or resources. And it's basically, I mean, the system has just huge flaws that don't support teachers, they don't support students. I don't know who they support, but it became a matter of self-preservation, and I decided that my peace and happiness was more important. And so I'm taking a break from teaching for the time being. And it's been really nice to get to prioritize myself for once a little bit.
Yes, and you're not the only one. I read about 2 hours of news every morning, and I read story after story after story about teachers leaving the field, thoroughly burned out, and they believe the
Yep.
administration is not supporting them, and they have to buy materials for the classroom, which to me is incredible. But I also have seen this to some degree at the university level as well. It's almost like education is no longer valued in this country.
Yeah. I mean, we literally got rid of the department for it. So, um, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that the in the past, even when I first started teaching, so I started teaching in 2015. And I noticed this huge shift after COVID because teachers kind of proved they could do literally anything and do it all online. And then you come back and kids are in a different place. Um, Support is spread differently, and it's just not going to the right places. So I started teaching in 2015, fresh out of college, and I loved it. I got in for all the right reasons. Um, my mom was a teacher, so I knew a lot of the struggles that I would face. I was anticipating spending money out of my own pocket. I was anticipating limited support. I was anticipating all of the problems that teachers, unfortunately, have to anticipate when they go into this field. And I was prepared for it. And I did it well for, you know, 5 years, and then COVID hit. Right before COVID hit, I had already felt that 5 year burnout. The statistic says that some odd percentage
Mhm.
of teachers leave. If they make it to year five, they're going to stay. But I always said, I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want to leave after 5 years. But I was ready to, and then COVID hit. I had a whole job lined up. I was moving out of education in the middle of the year. COVID hits. I wanted a stable security job. And so like a secure job, and I kept teaching. Well, as I get fast forward now to teaching, I left in January 2024. I left halfway through my 10th year teaching. So if you look at the time from COVID to now, all of those problems that were present before that had me burned out before are magnified. And some of it has to do with where I've taught. I've taught in 3 states. I taught in Georgia, Florida, and now here in Hamilton County, Tennessee. And Hamilton County, the resources are not allocated to teachers. They're not allocated. They it looks really good on paper. We have all these programs, we have all these like positions, but then when you're actually in the classroom, there is no support. I was in a Title I school when I left downtown, and my final straw came when in a class of 30 kids, most of whom come from trauma, most of whom go home to trauma and horrible situations, and they're children, so they act out. It's a very hard class behavior wise. A child threw a table at me. The table hit the wall. A third grader, the adrenaline, a big third grader, but adrenaline, he threw it across the room at me. The table hit a wall. The chair broke off, or the leg broke off, and they didn't take him out of my classroom because there was nobody to come do it. They did not do a single thing. He sat in my classroom for the rest of the day.
Okay, I've heard about that. I heard about a teacher was shot. Um, I know of a substitute teacher in Southern Illinois who, after COVID, had some of the same problems you have. Now, do you think a lot of this also has to do with virtual media, where they don't have to interact in person?
The learning online, everything changed after COVID because the kids who were born during COVID, they come into kindergarten years later having been COVID babies with no interaction. All they have are iPads. A good example of this is my niece. She is 5. She just turned 5. She was born in February 2020. So she was a month old when COVID happened. She spent the first 3 years of her life never seeing anybody but family, never going anywhere, spending tons of time inside. So my niece was born, and she was COVID baby, and now we see it a lot with her. She's just her whole personality is she grew up in her home, never leaving, so she never had to learn the boundaries of socialization and going places. And it's not that's one specific example. Everybody came from a very different COVID background, but all of those children now come into kindergarten. I had a kindergartner, it would have been 2021, 2022. Point being, she had never, ever, ever been anywhere away from her mother, ever. She had rarely left. They were a low income family. They didn't have a car. They rarely left. She rarely left her house. Her very first day of school, 5 years old, they pick her up at 6:30 in the morning and put her on a bus, take her away from her mom. She doesn't speak English. A stranger took her away on a bus and brought her and expected her to come in and be in a whole new place. And that's again one specific example, but there's
Okay,
stories like
stories like that abound all over the place. COVID's been over for a while. Do you anticipate that you will ever return to the teaching profession? Is it improving now? Have you seen that it's improving or talked to people? Or is it the same mess or even worse than it was during COVID?
so it's kind of it depends on where you look. I think that the like I talked a little bit about, the young like babies who were in COVID, but like think about the middle schoolers who were kids who are middle schoolers in 2020 are graduating now, and they had a whole formative period of their life where, you know, it was different. And now are they prepared to go into the world? I don't know. I do not believe the schools are preparing kids in a lot of ways. I think that the system just fails so many kids. And some of that's because of COVID. Some of that's just the system. Um, but it's like the resources don't get allocated to the right place. We'll check off boxes like for special education or for accommodations or um there's so many just different elements that are not prioritized. It's a checkbox. Like at my school, when I had the table thrown at me, they have behavior support. We receive grants for support, but that doesn't change the fact that when I was having that thrown at me, they couldn't send anybody because those 5 people or whatever were dealing with other behavior problems.
It sounds to me like what we're looking at is a virtual equivalent of paperwork with check boxes, and the boxes are checked, but nothing is happening. Now, looking
Yeah,
into the future, what are you going to do? What type of jobs have you taken? And you have a master's degree in education, right?
I do.
Okay,
So
you have a
yeah,
master's degree in education. What are you doing right now as far as work?
right now I work at Chick-fil-A with a side of DoorDash. Um, since leaving teaching, almost a year ago. It's November, so it's been 11 months. And since leaving teaching, I have worked at a bagel shop. I was a flower delivery driver. I tutor. Oh, I do still tutor. I do regular tutoring. I DoorDash and I work at Chick-fil-A. And I don't know exactly what's next. I have, some ideas of how to get into like the private sector that I'm working towards, and that is the goal. Um, but for now, it's like it's just staying afloat because I was making, being a teacher with a master's degree and 10 years of experience, even though teachers are severely underpaid, I was making, a decent amount. I was living comfortably. Well, I left and started selling bagels and went to, above minimum, but it wasn't a livable wage. And I mean, the way teachers are underpaid in America, it I'm just one person. I can't imagine having a family with that salary. You know, the it's sad.
Yeah, it is. And I'm seeing, well, okay, I'll give you an example myself. I'm 73 years old, a baby boomer, and I'm semi retired doing this podcast. I also work a part time job on the weekend in security. So I can do a lot of the side things. I'm not having a problem with my life as far as money, but have talked to at least five different people, some of them Generation X, M's, and Z's, who are working three different jobs. One guy is married, has kids. He doesn't want his wife to work. He wants the wife to stay home with the kids. So he's working three jobs, three full-time jobs, and he's about 40 years old. I'm seeing this not just for teachers, but so many different people. And
Hmm.
it's incredible. I've never, and then my degree in radio and TV, and I mentioned this 100 times to you guys. I went to a Southern Illinois University at the time. It was one of the top five broadcasting schools in the country. People from NBC and the networks came, and it was a big school we had 500 majors. It was very popular. Now, somebody gets a degree in radio and TV. What are they going to do with it? Radio revenues have dropped, so our TV revenues. The future is podcasting and not broadcasting. So there's a lot of people in trouble now. And then you've got people who have retired and their Roth IRAs are not big enough to stop working, so they're working. So we've
Hmm.
got a mess here. So I agree. I think we agree on several things on this. Now, let me ask you one final question before we break. Whose fault is it?
The man's
And
man's
who?
always holding us down.
Okay, it's the man. And how old is the man?
I don't know about that. I think that the issue, and it's hard to point one finger because the enemy is the system. And so therefore the enemy is the people that make decisions for the system. But where does the responsibility there fall? Does it fall on voters? Does it fall on policymakers? Does it fall on individual schools? It feels like we just need a huge complete reform in education. And even with another point to agree on what we were just saying. It's like I have that master's degree, so you would think it would be really easy for me to go out and get another good job because I have, 7 years of education and am a master in my field. But the number of jobs I've either gotten rejected from or I have gotten two interviews in the entire time that I've been applying, and I've probably applied for 100 jobs. And I kind of just finally stepped back because one of those interviews that I got was my Chick-fil-A job, and I
Oh, well, congratulations.
and I will say I am thankful for this job because as a teacher, I'm constantly told that everything I'm doing is wrong. You need to change how you're doing this. You need to I mean, you'll feel support within the system or within your own school, assuming you have a good administration and a good team, which I have been fortunate enough to have in the past. The last 2 years, I did not. I literally was felt completely alone. But
But what about Chick-fil-A?
well, I'm saying it's been nice to land there because I feel like even though I'm not really using my master's degree, it's more fulfilling for me than teaching had gotten to be.
Oh, that's incredible. Because when I was growing up, Well, this stuff was starting, McDonald's, all that was starting, and college degree was a big deal. And the philosophy has changed so much.
Well, I need to caveat that with saying that I am at Chick-fil-A specifically. If I was at McDonald's, I would not have this attitude. The thing I love about my job at Chick-fil-A right now is I do the face-to-face service. So I get to like interact with people in a very positive way all day, every day, and just yap. It's been a nice break for me. It's not that this is what I want to do forever because it's like replaced my passion, but I'm able to
Oh,
feel appreciated again. Teaching is a thankless job. If you're listening to this, go thank a teacher. Like it, and I know that people are aware of it. We were at a music festival this past weekend, and this one guy, in conversation, I mentioned that I had taught for 10 years, and he said, "Wait, you taught for 10 years?" And he just came over and hugged me. He's like, "Thank you. We need people to do that." And I was like, "Well, I left." And he said, "Yeah, but thank you for how long?" Like I couldn't do it for a year. And you don't hear that a lot. And so Chick-fil-A has been nice to know that I'm like making a difference in somebody's little bit of a morning. But the sad part of it is like I applied for so many jobs that are looking for teachers, but I had my master's degree, I had my 10 years of experience, but I did not have any metrics or KPIs or anything that translates to the business side of it because I've never done the business side of it. Um, and so rather than look at my resume and say, okay, look at how incredible her resume looks, look at how great her experience and her background, but she doesn't check this one box and we're not going to teach her, so we're just going to pass and move on to the next candidate. So
that's okay. That's enough because that's annoying just to begin with. When you're dealing with people directly, you find out what their skills are, what they're capable of, not just making decisions based on paperwork or, in this case, virtual. Okay, that's aggravating.
virtual, I think the virtual is the key because I think I get skipped over because of an algorithm. I don't even think my resume makes it to a lot of desks.
Aren't you thankful that this virtual conversation we're having it's not screwed up, but we're close enough where we can hear each other
I was
without.
going to say, we're having a virtual in-person podcast interview.
Yeah, listen, I'm a boomer, but I'm
Hey,
going
how you doing?
to. Okay, any final notes, Amy?
Oh man. I mean, I'm always interested in other people's perspectives on this conversation, and it's always a conversation I'm willing to have. I think people need to make sure people need to get involved in their local elections and things like that. I mean, th sometimes it feels like there's nothing you can do, so you have to do all that you can do, which is use your voice. Like I say, support a teacher. Um, you know, any little thing. Honestly, bring Starbucks in the morning, send her money for books, ask if you can come help clean her classroom. Uh,
Well,
just teachers are not appreciated in the way they should be. And unfortunately, and I'm not just speaking to myself, it's a problem across the country where good teachers are leaving. The good teachers who care about the kids. There was a school, I know we're wrapping up, but a school here in Tennessee. The reason that I left is because I became aware of a student who was being abused at home. Um, and he confided in me. I reported it as I'm expected to do. And then I continued to support the kid. And I was involved in that process. And that the teacher told me, not my teacher, the principal said that I was not doing my job. My job was to teach him, and it was somebody else's job to support him emotionally. So if I couldn't teach, then I didn't need to be doing this job. And I thought, where is that? You know, that's just backwards. And it's a representation of that innate flaw in the system that I don't know the answer to. Because if a teacher can't do their job well, love their kids, teach them well, what's the point?
okay, on that note, we're going to sign off and appreciate the interview. You are saying the same things basically as a lot of other people are saying. The only thing we need to do now is to do something about it
Yep.
so that people because if you have a lot of ignorant people in this world, I read a story about a high school student who was an honors student. She was foreign born, and she graduated illiterate, and she sued the school district. That type
Mm-hmm.
of thing. And then I also interviewed a woman at Southern Illinois University who is working on a program that helps people learn how to read news, and they're starting with
Mm.
children. And the problem here is if a person can't read to begin with, what kind of decision making can they make when they read a news story if they try to? What kind of decisions can people make if they're ignorant? We're seeing it right
Yep.
now.
And that's where those resources being allocated are not focusing on that. We look at test scores, reading scores, but we don't target the
Yeah.
fundamental. And until something changes, nothing's going to change, you know?
Yeah, in the FAA, I was a flight instructor, so I have a commercial rating. They went from 4 potential answers in the written to 3 potential answers. It's a A, B, or C question. Right? What would happen is that the student would ace the exam and then get with the flight instructor, and the flight instructor would ask questions based on the exam, and the student didn't know anything. So the flight instructor had to sit the student down and teach him all the things he didn't learn, even though he passed the test, before he went up with the FAA examiner who would ask him the same questions. See, but that's the type of dumb stuff that's happening. Okay, Amy, now you got me upset.
We're all fired up over. I'm glad to know you may be a boomer, I may be a millennial, but this is one thing that we can agree on.
We agree. Let's take. Amy Walls, thank you very much.
Pleasure chatting with you.
Okay, Boomer.
And that wraps it up. Amy and I talked about education on OK Boomer. And as usual, we agreed on something. As a matter of fact, I think we agreed on everything. So we fulfilled the goal of 1, no monopoly on the truth, and 2, we could agree on anything. I'm Robert Rickman.